Good morning. Today is Monday, September 20th, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Virginia Redistricting Commission. I am Greta Harris, co-chair of the commission, who will be presiding over this meeting. I want to remind members, staff, and any other speakers on today's meeting of a couple of items. First, please keep your microphone muted until you're ready to speak. This improves the quality of the audio for the meeting. Before you speak, please remember to unmute yourself. Also, please remember to state your name before speaking, and especially before making a motion. This helps us in keeping track of what's happening. Any votes taken will be done by voice. Staff will call the roll for each vote taken. Registration for virtual public comment has now closed. We do have individuals who signed up to virtually provide public comment. Any individuals who would like to provide public comment in person at the full commission meeting may do so. We appreciate the public's participation. Such comment will be limited to 2 minutes at the discretion of the chair. I also note that members of the public who wish to comment on an agenda item may also do so by sending an email to varedist@dls.virginia.gov. The comment will be posted on the division's website at virginiaredistricting.org. Again, for members of the public who would like to comment on today's meeting, the email address is varedist@dls.virginia.gov. Claire, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Mr. Brenio, Mr. Feliciano,
Here.
Mr. Harrell,
Here.
Mr. Hutchins,
Here.
Mr. Kumar, Ms. Thornton,
Here.
Delegate Adams,
Here.
Senator Barker,
Here.
Senator Locke,
Here.
Senator McDougal, Delegate McQuinn,
Here.
Delegate Ranson,
Here.
Senator Stanley, Delegate Simon,
Here.
Ms. Babachenko,
Here.
Ms. Harris.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. This is a very exciting day for the Virginia Redistricting Commission in that we will see together the first version of proposed state maps for the redistricting efforts for this body. We have a tight schedule. There will be a lot of listening and specific times for questions and answers from commission members. We've asked each of the map drawers to present their version of each map that they have prepared, one for the House and one for the Senate. They each have an hour to give a macro level overview of their philosophy, the actual map, some summaries of what their proposed map means in a variety of different settings, and then we will have 15 minutes after their presentation to be able to ask specific questions. I would ask that members of the commission take copious notes. And then probably on Thursday, we'll be able to, again, meet with the map drawers and go into more granular details around specific areas of interest with the region. The staff has also provided each of us the first set of comments from the public, which is a very important partner with us in this process. And so, again, I'm encouraging my colleagues on the commission to begin reading through those public comments to help us in guiding adjustments that we will have to do on the maps. And the last thing that, before we turn it over to, I think Ken Strassman is going to be up first to present his maps, is for commission members to really think, we don't have to answer it today, But we're 3 weeks away from when we're supposed to vote on final maps to be presented to the General Assembly. So the clock is really moving quickly now. So think about your ideas on the best way to reconcile the two versions of each map that we have. So we don't have to decide on that today, but I'd be thinking about when you're looking at the maps, how similar they are or how dissimilar they are, and what is the best strategy for us to try to end up with one map for the House and one map for the Senate at this point. So with that, Mr. Strassman, are you on the line?
I am, Madam Chair.
Okay, the floor, whoops, sorry.
Madam Chair, we'd like
Yes.
to show your face when you're speaking. So if you wouldn't mind scooting to your right. Yeah, towards,
Okay.
get it cozy with delegate side.
All right. Oh, okay. Some more? Okay. I apologize for that.
No, it's not you.
There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Strassman, thankfully I'm going off camera and the focus will be on you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the Commission. We appreciate this opportunity to present our statewide draft maps. With an hour to walk through the maps, we'll not be going through each district in the level of detail that we did with the earlier regional maps, but we do want to take time to describe our overall approach. Then I'll hand things over to my colleague, Zach Combs, who will walk through the details of some of the key districts. We are referring to this as a draft map, and I want to emphasize that. The map is in no way a final proposal. As directed by the Commission, we did not look at election data when drawing these districts. We did not look at incumbent addresses, and we do not yet have information about public submissions regarding communities of interest. At some point, we will need to look at election results in these districts in order to assess the political neutrality criterion and to suggest changes that would be needed to satisfy that. And analyzing past election results will be vital for assessing minority voters' ability to elect their candidate of choice in majority-minority coalition and opportunity districts. We also very much want to incorporate public input regarding communities of interest. Following the Commission's guidance from last week, we worked to avoid splitting counties and independent cities and then towns. Where possible, we attempted to group together similar communities. However, we understand that the people who know these neighborhoods best are the ones who live there. Once the Commission has been able to digest public comment about communities of interest, we can modify these plans to minimize the splits as directed by the Commission. I have looked at some of the public comments posted along with draft maps, and it's clear that people are weighing in about particular communities that they do want grouped together or that they would prefer to have split. So it's interesting to see that. We did not attempt to follow those because we know the process is for the Commission to distill those and then provide direction on which seem to be bubbling up as consensus communities of interest, and we are eager to make modifications to minimize splits of those. Our approach to the statewide map was three-pronged. As you know, we had already begun work in Northern Virginia, as that was the first region when we were working region by region. And I should note that we're using the original version of Central Northern Virginia rather than the one that was modified in response to some of the input from the Commission. We also focused on the Central and Hampton Roads portion of the state, where Dr. Palmer's racially polarized voting analysis identified significant racially polarized voting, and where there were significant concentrations of minority population, enough so that there were likely to be the possibility of drawing voting rights districts there. We began working in any area with a large enough concentration that it was seen possible to create a majority-minority district. And I do want to stress that per the Commission's guidance, we did not start with the existing districts, nor did we look at them while drawing these districts. We also did not look at the incumbent addresses and did not look at election returns. However, as I mentioned before, at some point, it will be very important to look at all of these factors in assessing the effectiveness of these districts and the ability to elect for minority voters in those districts, the ability to elect their candidate of choice as required in the Voting Rights Act. After drawing the majority-minority districts, there are often areas of moderately high concentrations of minority population nearby. In those areas, we examined whether additional minority opportunity or coalition districts could be created while following the other criteria about population equality, compactness, and minimizing community splits. We're defining coalition districts as those where the combined minority percent for all groups other than non-Hispanic white is greater than 50%. And opportunity districts as those where the minority percent is between 30 and 50%. When we're talking about these racial percents, all are voting age as a percent of total voting age population. And in defining the percent African American, we are looking at the census any part African American number, which includes people who selected multiple racial categories. Hispanic African Americans are included in the African American percent. As you may recall, in our first presentation to the Commission, we talked some about how the census has changed in the most recent decade, in that a lot more people are selecting multiple racial categories, up to 5 different racial categories plus other. And we didn't want to be discounting anyone who selected African American and another. So the African American percent includes any part African American, and it also includes Hispanic African Americans. For the remainder of the state, after working on the areas where it was likely that we could make voting rights districts, we began at the southwestern edge of the state, as it would be very difficult to equalize population if we started elsewhere and ended up with a final district that was landlocked with nowhere to go to equalize the population. The population equalization and minimizing county, city, and town splits were the guiding principle in this draft. Working from the southwest, it was possible to create well-balanced districts with vertical north-south combinations of counties or with more horizontal combinations. Other things being equal, we erred on the side of the horizontal combinations in the western part of the state, as those more closely follow transportation corridors in the region. With the 3 different starting points, we then completed the statewide map and turned to minimizing the population deviation, while also minimizing county and city splits. As we talked about at the beginning of the process, when we were planning on doing this region by region, we knew that when we came to stitching apart different parts of the state that were done separately, there would be some balancing that needed to be done. And a significant amount of time was spent at the end of this process getting the population deviations down and trying to minimize the splits. As we're walking through the plan, there may often be cases where what one might ask, why do you make a specific split in a specific area? Those were done to achieve a lower population deviation, and so there's not really a bright line definition of where we would choose to make a split versus having slightly higher population deviation. These are judgment calls. And one of the things where I would welcome input from the Commission, if you wanted us to look at an area where we could remove a split at the expense of slightly higher population deviation, that's the sort of tweaking I'm looking forward to in the next phase of this. With all that said about population deviation, we are pleased that we're able to get within the Commission's guidance of plus or minus 2% population deviation for all districts in both the House and the Senate plan. All 4 plans that you'll see today are dramatically more compact than the existing plans. We looked at 3 standard measures of compactness: Polsby, Popper, Riak, and Schwartzberg. And under all 3, our draft plans are significantly better than the existing districts. I should also say that Mr. Morgan's plans are similarly compact. In our brief look at them, much more compact than the existing plan, with almost identical scores to our draft. Looking at the average REAC score for the different drafts, Mr. Morgan's House plan is more compact by 0.01, and our Senate plan is more compact by 0.02. So essentially identical scores on both. Co-Chair Harris had asked us specifically to list what we have been able to do in terms of the number of different types of minority districts. So looking at the Voting Rights Act districts, our Senate draft plan has 4 majority African American districts. So that's defined as the any part African American voting age, including African American Hispanic. 2 of those are in the central Richmond area and 2 in Hampton Roads. There are also 7 coalition districts. So those being defined as ones where the combination of all racial categories other than non-white Hispanic is above 50%. And 12 opportunity districts where the combined minority percent is between 30 and 50. So not outright majorities, but districts where it's quite likely that that community would be able to select their candidate of choice in a primary and win the general. So there is 1 more majority African American district than in the current map. There are 2 fewer coalition districts, but 3 more opportunity districts. Shifting to the state house, there are 9 majority African American districts, 20 coalition districts, and 27 opportunity districts. Under the current map, there were 6 majority African American, so that has increased by 3, 25 coalition districts, and 30 opportunity districts. So in the House, we were able to increase the number of outright majority African American districts, but have slightly fewer coalition or opportunity districts. So at this point, I will hand things over to my colleague, Zach Combs, who will zoom in on some of the key districts that we wanted to talk about. Zach?
All right, I will share my screen. So we will start with the House map. This is our map of Northern Virginia, which you have already seen. Some examples of things Ken was talking about. We'll first move down into the Richmond area. And I'll move my chart down here. So the column he was referring to, when we say minority or coalition districts, this is the column here, minority. And next to it, any part Black. And then you have Hispanic, Asian, and white figures for the districts. So this was an area that Ken mentioned. There was racially polarized voting in Dr. Palmer's analysis. I'll start here with District 62. District 62 is wholly or contains all of Charles City County. And then the eastern portion of Henrico, as well as 2 neighboring precincts, or a few neighboring precincts in Richmond. This is a compact district, and it is a majority Black district at 52.6%. Continuing in this region, District 60, again, follows the border of Henrico County, contains some neighboring precincts of Richmond. This district is very compact, maintains a lot of the local transportation corridors, and District 60 is also a majority Black district at 52.04%. Districts 56 and 57, so primarily situated in Hanover County, felt like a good place to sort of bisect this population would be along Interstate 95. These districts being more suburban, transitioning to rural districts of the Richmond area. We were able to keep the town of Ashland whole, and I can turn on that layer so you can see kept the town of Ashland whole here. Moving on to District 65. District 65, wholly within Henrico County, following the existing highway here. And again, we were looking for a compact district wholly within this county in relation to the districts we had already drawn. District 61 here is the sort of core of Richmond, has downtown and some areas across the river. District 61 has multiple bridges downtown to cross the river here, and District 61 is a 54% Black district. District 68 and 67, again, we were looking for compactness and trying to keep, even though District 67 crosses the river, we're trying to keep the Henrico area, Chesterfield County, sort of that Richmond area whole in these districts in respect to the districts we had already drawn. We see here District 64 is an example of a potential opportunity district, like Ken mentioned, at 48% minority population. And District 86, which is all of the independent city of Petersburg, all of the independent city of Hopewell, and some neighboring precincts. There's another compact district that was drawn in the Richmond area, and it is majority Black at 52%. So in this area, you can see that we drew districts. We tried to keep them compact. We followed existing precinct boundaries. And we wanted to keep the focus on both minimizing county splits and keeping the population deviation within 2%. Moving to the northwest as an example of trying to minimize splits. Here we keep the city of Charlottesville in its own district, as well as some neighboring precincts in Albemarle County. And thinking of Charlottesville as sort of the core of this area, we wanted to keep the rest of Albemarle County whole while adding some neighboring precincts in Augusta County to balance the population. As Ken mentioned, here in the southwest portion of the state, our focus when drawing districts here, and I'll turn this towns layer off so you can see a little better. I was drawing districts with a primarily east-west axis to follow the geography and transportation corridors of the area. One of the more challenging puzzles in this area was the more populated areas around Radford, Montgomery, Salem, and Roanoke. Here we were able to draw a whole district within Montgomery County as well as Radford. And that contains the city of Blacksburg. District 94 contains the city of Christiansburg, and then moves up here into Roanoke County. Roanoke City is too large for one district, but 92 is wholly within Roanoke, with the remainder here in 94. And then District 93 is all of Salem, the rest of Roanoke County, and some neighboring precincts here to the north. Another thing that's come up a lot, keeping Lynchburg whole. Lynchburg is just too small, barely, for its own district. So here we were able to draw Lynchburg plus one neighboring precinct and then part of additional neighboring precincts into one district. And then we drew Amherst and Campbell County together as sort of the area around Lynchburg as a separate district. Moving on to another region that Ken mentioned was an area of racially polarized voting in Dr. Palmer's analysis. We'll start here with District 38. So District 38 would be a coalition district. By the definition, that is over 50% minority, with 35% Black, 4% Asian, and 10% Hispanic. District 38 is wholly within the city of Newport News. It's a compact district. District 41 here is wholly within the city of Hampton. It's a compact district. And District 41, as is currently drawn, is a 59.8% majority Black district. District 42 here is the remainder of Newport News south of District 38. So Newport News has enough for 2 plus a little bit of a third district. So District 42 here follows the city boundary, and District 42 is 50.55% any part Black. And then District 43 here to the east is the remainder of Hampton plus the neighboring precincts to the north. Our thought process here, first, as you're all aware, along the peninsula here, there is not enough population for a full House district or Senate district. And so following the bridge here into the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area is where the remainder of the population for District 50 in this case comes from. Starting here in Norfolk in District 44, District 44 is wholly within the city of Norfolk. It's a compact district, and District 44 is a majority Black district at 52.93%. Norfolk has enough population for a little under 3 full districts. So District 48 here is the northern section of Norfolk, wholly within the city. And District 48, you can see the stats for it here. District 48 is, like I said, the more coastal sections. And yeah, my apologies. The software sometimes does that. It crashes out. Just give me one moment.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Delegate Simon.
Well, wait, I have a silly question, maybe silly question. Who assigns the color codes to the districts? I've noticed that sometimes you get some very similar colors on adjacent districts, and it makes it hard to tell where one ends and one begins. Is that something that each map drawer decides, or is that something the software just assigns, or does anybody have any insight as to how we pick the colors?
The software, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is that Ken?
Yeah. This is Ken, Madam Chair and Commissioner. It is a default in the software. We're able to go in and manually change those colors, and sometimes we do when we're seeing two adjacent districts where that's an issue. But it's something we have to explicitly go in and do by hand, which is why just based on the default colors, sometimes the districts are fairly similar. But that's something we can just make a note and adjust particular districts that are hard to read.
I think for our final maps, we can make them very distinctive, if you'd like.
I didn't want to interrupt the flow for that question, but since we're at sort of a natural pause, I thought it was a good time to ask.
Okay.
We're glad the software bug could provide that pause for us, but I believe Zach is back up and running.
Thank you, Zach. Go ahead.
My apologies. That, for anyone watching, if you're using this software, save frequently. This has happened a few times, and it is not fun if you haven't saved. Okay, so as I was saying, District 48 here is the northern section of Norfolk, mostly along the water here, north of District 44, as I just mentioned, which is a majority Black district. And then the rest of Norfolk here is in District 47. District 47 is the only precincts of Virginia Beach in this district are just here immediately to the east. Try to keep this district as compact as possible. And District 47 is what we are defining as a coalition district at 62%. With a Black population of 44.9, Hispanic of 9.7, and Asian voting age population percent of 5.71. So continuing in this area, District 50, as I said, is the entirety of the peninsula, come across the bridge, has a military installation here, and then just the adjacent neighboring precincts. District 51, it argues the northeast corner, if you will, of Virginia Beach. District 51, drawing this district, we wanted to keep it as compact as possible. And it does not cross here onto the Naval Air Station. So the Naval Air Station is in District 54. District 51 is everything to the north of that. Districts 52 and 53, also here wholly within Virginia Beach. And these areas, when drawing these districts, we wanted to, again, follow sort of the predominant direction of travel, thinking of Norfolk, Hampton, or a military installation as a sort of economic center of an area. So the expressway here runs along the length of District 52, as well as the highway here. District 54 is the Naval Air Station and everything immediately to the west and south, some to the east. District 58 here is the rest of Virginia Beach, as well as the eastern section of Chesapeake here. District 58, in this case, being the sort of first transition from a urban suburban to rural district. I'll move back this way to District 45. So District 45, this is an area where we notice that although the independent city boundaries here are very well defined, in some cases, they do go right through neighborhoods or developed areas. And this is a place where perhaps a community of interest might inform a decision on where to draw the district if these districts were to change. So District 45 here, wholly within the city of Chesapeake, tried to draw this district as compact as possible. And District 45, as drawn, is a 55.9% minority district, so coalition district, at 41.86% any part Black, 7.33% Hispanic, and 3.8% Asian. Next, we'll move to the independent city of Portsmouth. District 46 here, so District 46 is wholly within the city of Portsmouth. Drew District 46 to be as compact as possible. Portsmouth just has a little bit too much population for only one district, so there's just a few precincts left over here to the north. And District 46 is a majority Black district at 51.6%. Moving to the south here is District 49. District 49, the shape of which follows Highway 664, and then down here to the Hampton Roads Beltway, continuing on the Hampton Roads Beltway. District 49 is collecting as much as we could of Chesapeake. That is the last developed areas before moving into a more rural area. And District 49, as it's drawn, is a potential opportunity district at 40.9% minority. Moving west here, District 55. District 55 contains the core of Suffolk, and then thinking of the more developed areas here as the center of the Hampton Roads area moves east and collects the northern section, some precincts here of Chesapeake, and the remaining precincts of Portsmouth. District 55, as it's drawn, is a compact district, and it is 51.9% Black, so a majority Black district. To finish out this region, District 59, we wanted to draw the remaining counties and rural areas that are considered part of the Hampton Roads area together. So as the districts are currently drawn, this configuration works the best, where we collect the remainder of Chesapeake here, Suffolk. Actually, let me turn on the county labels, city labels, so you can orient yourself. And then most of Isle of Wight County here. And I think that sums it up for the house map, sort of an overview of what we were thinking and how we drew things. So let me switch over to the Senate map. Just give me 1 second.
Thank you, Zach. We look forward to seeing your Senate map as well.
Okay, y'all should be able to see it now.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay. So here you can see the Northern Virginia map, which you've already seen. The footprint of Northern Virginia, so the outline of what we had previously drawn and shown to the commission, is unchanged. I'll start here as an example with District 30 of how in this section of the state, the transportation corridors are very well defined, as well as this being a cultural and economic region of the state. So District 30 does have a primarily north-south axis. Let me change over to the more transportation-focused map here. District 35, something we heard over and over again, to keep independent cities whole as much as possible. So District 35 here is all of Charlottesville, all of the surrounding Albemarle County, all of Nelson County, Waynesboro, and some of the adjacent precincts here. Moving over to the southwest, see districts 40 and 39, we were able to draw without any county splits, except for just a little bit here to balance the population of 38 and 39. An area of high population that I focused on earlier in this House map. Here in the Senate map, you can see Montgomery County, Roanoke County. That the most compact district we could draw in this area for District 37 was Roanoke City, Salem, and then all of the most of the surrounding county of Roanoke. Here in District 33, we can see we kept Lynchburg together, as well as neighboring counties with the surrounding population and economic development. And now we'll move over into the Richmond area. So I'll start again in Charles City County with Senate District 16. So 16 is all of Charles City County. Most of the eastern portion and some of the northern portion of Henrico County, as well as neighboring precincts of Richmond. This district, as drawn as compact as possible, and District 16 is a majority African American district at 52.05%. District 28, which resembles District 56 or 57 from the House map. So again, it's Hanover County along I-95 here, as well as the neighboring section of Henrico County. District 29. District 29 is the western part of Richmond. This small section left here of Henrico County, part of Chesterfield County, and Powhatan County. District 15 here is the southern section of Richmond. It follows the river, which is also the county boundary, along to the south. District 15 is also the whole city of Hopewell and the whole city of Petersburg. And District 15, as it is drawn, is a majority Black district at 51.67%. And then District 17 here is the remainder of Chesterfield County, as well as the independent city of Colonial Heights. And District 17 is a potential minority opportunity district at 37%. Continuing on, District 27 here, one of the larger districts, is a primarily rural district and with a lot of access to the Chesapeake Bay and the various waterways. And District 26, a similar district transitioning more to a suburban district north of Hampton. And then we'll come down here to District 20. District 20, the western boundary here is mostly along a railroad track. District 20 is in the city of Hampton and the city of Newport News. It is a compact district, and try and change the color here if it's I changed District 23's color to contrast District 20 and made it look like 24. That's all right. So District 20 does not cross the water. It is only within Hampton and Newport News. And District 20 is a majority Black district at 52.4%. So I will need to change this color back. Something else. There we go. So District 23 here is all of the peninsula, crossing over the bridge here to some of Virginia Beach and some of Norfolk. District 22 contains the southern portion of Norfolk, just a few neighboring precincts of Virginia Beach, and then the northern section of, or this section of Chesapeake here. And District 22 is a majority Black district at 52.23%.
Madam Chair,
District 20.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Yes, Senator Barker.
Senator Barker here. I'm noticing that the figures that are up there, the percentages of Black population, are different from what's being stated in that. Is that because of the figures on the screen are those who are just Black and not any, do not check any other racial category or those types of things, compared to what I think was stated by the speaker, that was counting anyone who did check that they were at least partly African American Black.
Okay, we'll ask Zach to try to clarify that, but we're going to hold questions until after the presentation so we can try to get through the entire state. Zach, did you hear the question?
Yes. So this column here, AP Black, is any part Black, which is Ken described, is anyone who marked Black census, whether it was one race or someone who's two or more races. The column next to it is non-Hispanic, any part Black. And then this column was the default column that with the software that is, I believe, one race Black, which does include Hispanic. So when I am stating the figure, so for example, District 20 is 52.41% Black, this column here is any part Black.
Thank you.
Of course. So moving on to District 24 here. District 24 is wholly within the city of Virginia Beach. Again, we tried to, in this area, follow the transportation corridors, so the expressway here, whether it's access to the beach, access to the military installations, all contained here within District 24. District 25 is the remainder of Virginia Beach to the south, and then a portion of Chesapeake here neighboring to the west. Again, this is a district that is sort of the edge of the population of this area, transitioning to a more rural area. I'll come over here to District 18 next. District 18 is the entire city of Portsmouth, most of the northern portion of Suffolk, and then the precincts of Chesapeake that are in between the two. to create a compact district here that's within the population deviation. And District 18, as it is drawn, could be considered a minority coalition district at 57.38%, with the components of 48.8% Black, 4% Hispanic, and 2% Asian. District 19 here is the remainder of Newport News, coming up here to Williamsburg through some of James City County, and then the neighboring counties across the river from Newport News. And District 21 here is the remainder of the Hampton Roads population here in Chesapeake. Again, this is a suburban transitioning to rural area, and then the neighboring counties in Southside, and yeah, I think that's it. Unless Ken has something else to say, we'll end here about 10 minutes early for our hour.
I didn't have anything to add, so we welcome questions.
Thank you, Ken and Zach. That's fantastic. All right. So at this point, we would entertain questions from any of the commissioners if you want a specific region or the, methodology that was used. Ms. Babachenko.
I have a question just generally about how Richmond, the central Richmond area was. There are a lot of splits. I see Chesterfield, Hanover, Richmond, and Henrico all, I think, were split into 3 Senate districts, if I can go back. And I just had some questions about that. One of the districts, you have one senator going in, I think it was Chesterfield, Hanover, and Richmond, the western part of Richmond, and maybe somewhere else. And can you just talk a little bit about why the county and the city areas weren't as important in that area?
So I don't know if you had something to add specifically on that, Zach. This, I think, is a case, like I was saying, where we're balancing different criteria of population equality and splits, and sometimes it depends on where we start and where we end up finishing, having to find where we make the splits in order to get under that 2% deviation. And this is an area where we definitely welcome guidance from the commission based on public input on communities' interest. If you want us to look harder at preserving existing political geography in particular areas. Also, the commission guidance does say, I believe that we're to stay within 2% where practicable. So where if the commission directs us that we want to go to a higher population deviation in order to minimize particular splits, we can, and we'd be happy to look more at that particular area.
Okay, so with some feedback, maybe we can get, like, for instance, Hanover County has, I think, 105 or 108,000 people between 3 senators. Certainly, that would be something. My bias is I'm from Hanover County and would prefer being able to work with my county and other people in my county. We have a lot in common. And we can talk about and provide further guidance and see if there's some more ideas to minimize some of those splits, maybe get to 2 senators.
We very much appreciate that input.
Okay. And then this was just a second comment, Madam Chair. Is there a way that the map drawers can talk about maybe putting so we can compare it a little more easily, like, for instance, I look on the map, it's 23, these are the Senate maps. It's 23 on B3, and then it's 21 on A3. Is there anything wrong with just calling those this, looking at each other's maps and seeing if the numbers can be more similar so that we can have an easier time looking at this 21 and this 21 are kind of more in the same place? Does that sound like something that can be done?
It's possible. This is one of those areas where it gets a little bit fuzzy. I mean, there are some districts that are very similar, so we're able to say, okay, district X is largely the same on both, and others it becomes less clear. But I do realize it makes it hard when we're flipping back and forth. One of the things I'm hoping we're able to do in the next phase is sort of consolidate areas where there seems to be general consensus. And I definitely agree that just standardizing the numbers in those areas would make it easier for everyone to keep track.
Oh, thank you so much.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Who's that?
Delegate Adams.
Delegate Adams? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, and my question would be with respect to, I think both maps, but I know with regard to the House map, did not give much description to South Side, if at all. You kind of, we started, kind of went down the Southwest and then across the central side of the state and back around. Could you maybe speak to some of the communities in South Side in the House map?
Yes, let me pull that back up. And I will share my screen again. Okay, so here in Southside, we were able to keep most of these counties and independent cities whole, with a few exceptions. And like Kim said earlier, this is an instance where going outside of the 2% population deviation might allow a county or independent city to remain whole. So here we have most of Patrick County, City of Martinsville, and then Henry County, and some of Pennsylvania. District 87 here is most of Pennsylvania County, and then the City of Danville. District 83, this is an example of a district where putting these four counties together, completely whole, created a district within the population deviation. And so within the criteria of compactness and population deviation, this is a great example of a district where that works. District 88 here are most of the counties and independent cities to the west of what we are considering the Hampton Roads region. And again, so everything up to District 86 this way, and then all whole counties, except for this one precinct here that we had to take from District 66 to balance the population. District 66 here, again, is two whole counties, Amelia and Nottoway, and then most of Dinwiddie, as well as the fringe suburban transitioning to rural districts, or precincts, excuse me, of Chesterfield County. And then, as I said, District 84 is all of Lynchburg. 85 would be most of the surrounding counties of Lynchburg, and District 78, trying to keep whole counties here: Nelson, Buckingham, Cumberland, Prince Edward, and Appomattox.
Okay. Other questions that members may have?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd ask this map drawer, as I'll ask the other map drawer when they make their presentation. At least when I was looking at the Senate maps over the weekend, I was I think I'm reminding myself that there were 5 majority African-American Senate districts in the last map drawn.
That's correct.
That was approved. And the best I could figure on this map, on the Senate map by this map drawer, is that there are 2, unless I may be mistaken. My concern is retrogression. I think we should have at least 5, more than 5, if possible. African-American majority in accordance with Article 2. So can this map drawer tell me, am I right or wrong about, we've gone from, in this map, if we're accepted, we would be going from 5 majority African-American districts down to 2.
So Ken, I think you gave us a summary at the beginning of your opening comments. It would be great, honestly, both for well, first the Senate and then the House map, to say what the existing minority, majority, coalition, and opportunity districts are, and then what your map proposes. If you
So in our proposal, we have 4 majority African American districts in the state Senate plan. There's 2 in the central Richmond region and 2 in Hampton Roads. And by our count, that is 1 more than the current map. The difference may be that we are looking at the current map based on current population counts, and there have been population changes over the last decade. We count that as 1 more majority African American district. There are, however, 2 fewer coalition districts, but 3 more opportunity districts. If we're defining that as 30 to 50% minority.
I'm sorry, Ken, can you just go over the numbers? Tell me again what is existing today, minority, majority, coalition, and opportunity, and then what your Senate map provides, and then what your House map provides, please.
Sure, 1 moment. So on the current Senate map, we show 3 majority African American, 9 coalition, and 9 opportunity.
Okay.
On our draft Senate map, we show 4 majority African American, 7 coalition, and 12 opportunity.
Okay. And if we could do the same thing for the House map, that would be great.
On the current House map, we show 6 majority African American, 9 coalition, I'm sorry, 25 coalition, and 30 opportunity. And this draft now has 9 majority African American, 20 coalition districts, and 27 opportunity districts. So the primary change here between the existing and our map is that we have been able to increase by 3 the number with an absolute majority African American, but that was at the expense of reducing the number of coalition and opportunity districts.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Delegate Simon.
So on that topic, and maybe this is a question for the attorneys, but I was noticing that we seem to have a number of majority districts that get to the high 50s as far as African-American percentage. And when that happens at the expense of the overall number of coalition and opportunity districts, it seems to me we got sued for that not too long ago. I mean, isn't that sort of the definition of packing, when you make them too densely African-American and then you lose an overall number? Or am I making that too simplistic?
So I would definitely like to hear what the attorneys have to say on this, but just our take on this first. That is a very key point, and one of the reasons why I highlighted that we will definitely need to look at the election results, reconstitute election results in these districts. The commission's instructions were not to look at them for this phase of the process. But we want to highlight as often as possible that we definitely do need to look at that to do an analysis of the ability to elect. We want to make very sure that there's no retrogression in ability to elect, and on the flip side, no packing. We don't want any of these districts higher than they need to be. But guided by the extensive discussion last week, we knew that there is special care that has to be given to any area where we are able to get above 50% as an absolute majority. But we did try not to go needlessly higher than that 50%. But I would be eager to hear the attorney's input on that.
Mr. Hebert?
Thank you, Jerry Hebert. So first of all, the performance of minority voters in these districts has not yet been assessed. And that's important, and reconstituted election results are one of the best ways to do that, combined with Dr. Palmer's analysis of racially polarized voting to see, Delegate Simon, if a district is packed with excess minorities, depriving them of an opportunity in an adjoining district to either be in coalition or to have some opportunity to influence the outcome of the election. So that's why Mr. Strasma indicated this was purely draft based on population alone. And until we actually get those numbers, there will be, I wouldn't even call them tweaks, I would call them changes in districts to ensure that we comply with performance for minority voters at the level they're supposed to be and protected under the Voting Rights Act.
Madam Chair.
Hold on. And we have ordered analysis on several different elections. We talked about that at our last meeting, and I believe we're supposed to get that information later on this week. So that will help inform our decision-making. So we have Senator Barker and then Senator Stanley comments.
Mine was just a question.
Okay, Senator Stanley, okay.
And for the lawyer, Mr. Hebert, so when we talk about packing though, and Delegate Simon mentioned, mid-50s or high 50s, is that considered packing? I mean, is there a threshold legally that has been determined by any court system that says when you have a district, whether it be a House or Senate district, and this number, you're over this number, then there's an inference that can be drawn that perhaps that's packing. Is there a percentage there, or we just it's a look and feel kind of thing?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as a look and feel. I would consider it to be a data-based analysis, and the database, there is no magic number on when a district becomes packed. For example, in my early days in Mississippi, districts had to be 65% black voting age population or greater because there was a disparity in turnout between blacks and whites. There was a disparity in voter registration between blacks and whites, and there was other kind of disparities that affected that. So you have to do a functional analysis within the district, looking at voter turnout based on reconstituted past election results to make that determination on a case-by-case and district-by-district basis.
Follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So it could be that a 58% majority African-American district is not packing because of voter participation, at least gets that voter participation of the African-American voting community over 50%, even though it may be 58% African-American within that district. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
And again, we'll get that voting analysis hopefully by the end of this week to add to our information gathering. Senator Barker?
Thank you, Senator Barker here, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things I want to go over, and I think Senator Stanley and Delegate Simon have been right on target in terms of addressing these issues, because we need to get these right so we don't get sued again and end up back in court.
Senator Barker speaking to the mic.
And lose as a result of that. And actually, we had two situations in the last decade where the federal courts threw out the districts, one on the congressional districts, the other on the House of Delegate districts. To Senator Stanley's last point, in the House of Delegates, the House of Delegates has set a minimum of 55% black population for a district that would then be regarded as related to majority minority. But the federal court threw out all the districts except for Delegate Tyler's district, which is in a rural area in South Side. And in that particular case, they let that 55% stand for her district because of the point you just made about voter participation, those types of things. In the congressional situation, what the courts did was they actually reduced the percentage of African Americans in District 3, which is Bobby Scott's district, from above 50% to the mid-40s, and then created another district that former Senator McEachin, Congressman McEachin represents, that also is in the mid-40s. So they said, you don't want to go too high, and that was because of the analysis that Mr. Hebert is talking about there, at what level. And what the information we had gotten in looking at that was that all you needed was about 35 to 40% in the Richmond and Hampton Roads areas for African Americans to be able to control the outcome.
Okay. All right, Chris, did you want to respond to Senator Barker's comments?
Well, actually, my co-counsel, Mr. Tyson, wanted to comment via Zoom, if we could throw it to him.
Mr. Tyson?
Yes, Madam Co-Chair.
Yes.
Good morning. I just wanted to add, I think everyone has hit all the topics correctly here. I think the most important thing to remember is that this is a very fact-based analysis. So what the commission cannot do is pick kind of a magic number and go from there. Even if we're talking about coalition districts, opportunity districts, these are all things that are driven by the election data. So I'd like for us to just be careful about kind of saying, well, for sure, when we get to this number, we have a coalition district or an opportunity district. Those are things that, like Mr. Strasma has said, they could be, and we're going to look at that. That's part of what the process needs to be. But I think we need to make sure that is informed by the analysis, because this is a kind of a fact-intensive determination, and it's not just a pick a magic number and go from there, because it can vary in different parts of the state. So that's part of the process we'll all be engaged in going forward from here.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. All right, Mr. Kumar, and then Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we ask that the map drawers, as they post maps, keep somewhere a table with that data for any new map of the African American districts, coalition, and opportunity, just so they're available? And that's going to be important for anyone in the public or for us to view as we go forward, compared to the status quo. And I think one point of distinction there is that the maps we just reviewed were drawn with the our starting point or our benchmark was the districts that were last drawn or in place before this process, using today's census numbers to project those numbers, right? I should make sure I heard that correctly. Mr. Hebert saying yes.
Yes, that's correct. The Jerry Hebert.
Okay, thank you. And Senator McDougal.
This is a question for each of the attorneys, if y'all could give your opinion. When we heard the numbers of what the current maps are, that's based on the current population. When we're looking at majority-minority districts, are we supposed to look at the current population, or are we supposed to look at the population at the time the map was drawn? And so I would like to hear from each attorney their thoughts on that.
This is Jerry Hebert. Senator, the answer to that question is that in order to compare the current map with the map being proposed by the map drawers, you look at the districts with the population in them according to the 2020 census. So you look at today's data. You don't go back and look to see when the district was drawn and what the percentage was then. It changes over the course of the decade. I would point out that when the Justice Department reviews districts for retrogression, they do that exact same thing. They look at the current population in the district and what the reality is today compared to the proposed district.
And Senator, I agree that that is the correct metric. If you're looking at a retrogression analysis, you take the existing districts, apply the 2020 data to them, and then that gives you your counts. I will caution everyone, though, that the retrogression analysis of looking at the current number of districts that are majority minority or various categories compared to what you're drawing is what was required by Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. That's the provision that is no longer in force as to Virginia because of the Shelby County decision. So we are under an ability to elect standard in Section 2, which is that district by district analysis. From a legal perspective, we're not under a retrogression standard where we compare the number of districts on one map to the number of districts on the other map. Of course, the commission can do that, but I just wanted to be clear that the Voting Rights Act obligations of the commission are that district by district ability to elect analysis and not kind of an overall retrogression analysis.
Mr. Hebert.
I just want to respond to Mr. Tyson's point. I do think, however, that if you apply the Virginia state law that was enacted regarding the Voting Rights Act, I do think that there is an argument to be made for not retrogressing what I would call coalition districts, or for that matter, opportunity districts, because in each case, you could be going from a district which minority voters have that ability that Mr. Tyson talked about to one where they don't. And I think that that kind of a discriminatory result would constitute a violation possibly. So you need to be aware of that as well.
Mr. McDougal, or Senator McDougal, did that answer your question? Or
I guess so. So, but I just want to be clear. So if 10 years ago, the districts were drawn so that there were 5 minority districts, over time, that became 3 minority districts, and then we create one that is 4 minority districts. Neither one of you think that that would put us against the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, because 5 doesn't apply. Is that what I heard?
This is Jerry Hebert. I don't think that's correct. I think what we're saying instead is that population changes over the course of a decade. And in fact, with respect to the congressional districts and the House districts, those districts that were drawn in 2011 no longer exist across the board with respect to majority-minority districts. They've all been changed by federal court order. So that's why you look at the districts today and how they're performing today, and then you look at the districts that are being proposed and you compare them both based on the 2020 census.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, okay.
I understood that you said that, but I'm asking the additional question. So if you, because the information's out there, it's not like you have to guess, of the number of majority-minority districts that were drawn when the maps were originally put together. Are y'all saying that has no bearing at all on our decision-making? That's what I think I heard you just say.
I would say it has no bearing on the issue of whether or not districts today perform for minority voters. And that's the analysis you have to conduct. I wouldn't say, however, that you can even look at the numbers that have been presented by the map drawer, Mr. Strassman and Zach Coombs, and say anything about performance. All we know in those districts is that we have the racial data of what the numbers are. Until we actually do the performance, you really can't say we had this many performing districts before and now we're going to have this many performing districts for minority voters afterwards. That is a functional analysis. Mr. Tyson and I agree on that, and you have to look at election results and racially polarized voting numbers to make that determination.
Mr. Tyson, do you agree with Mr. Hebert's last statement?
Mostly yes. So, Senator, I think the answer to your question is, from our perspective, it really is not relevant how many were drawn at the time or how many existed at the time, because we don't think that retrogression standard would apply. I think what Jerry would say is that the number of districts may be relevant in terms of the Virginia provisions of the law, which I know we've had extensive discussions about kind of race consciousness in the redistricting context. Don't want to retread that this morning. But I think as a general matter, we would agree that that what it was drawn previously is not relevant to the analysis today about what our ability to elect districts on the plans, either as they stand now or the new plans that you're considering.
All right, and I have Delegate Simon, and that will be the last comment for the Democratic maps, and then we're going to switch over to John Morgan to share the other proposed maps. Delegate Simon.
That's okay. Mine was just an observation about Loudoun County being divided here north-south, when I think most of their land use planning and development is more of an east-west. And so I just thought it was a curious decision to divide Loudoun that way. And again, just note for you guys, I think it's Leesburg and Ashburn and Sterling have more in common with Herndon and Reston than they do with Clark County. So just something to put out there. But I'm sure we'll hear plenty from the public about that. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think it's really cool if people have their map or their computers to pull up the maps. The comments are coming in live. So it's interesting. And we really do see the public as an additional partner with the commission in trying to refine those lines as we go forward. So thank you for your questions, commissioners. Let's keep taking notes, and we'll be able to go deeper in analyzing the maps as we go forward. I'll do a soft shoe shuffle here for a little bit. I'm not sure where Mr. Morgan is.
Quick bathroom break.
Okay, all right, there we go. All right. Well, do people have ideas while we give him a couple of minutes here on thoughts on how we begin to merge both sets of maps? Yes, Delegate Simon.
Madam Chair, I was saving this because I thought we were in a hurry. So I guess before we can do that, and I'm sensitive to something Senator McDougal said last time about relying on like outside data sources for things and information. I guess I would like to start to see the political data get layered onto these maps sooner rather than later, because VPAP is already doing it. It's coming from third-party sources. We're getting on Twitter and via various channels people's political analysis of the maps based on who knows what sort of data and where it's coming from. So I know we've waited for some analysis, but I know we have data tables that we've put on our website that have 2017 results and things like that. So I don't know when, but I think before we can talk about merging them or picking one to start from or picking another to start from, I think it's going to be pretty important for us to start to see. I know some of the layers we wanted to wait because we wanted to make sure the shapes were compact and based on other criteria first. But I think we're going to need fairly soon to start to see the other data get layered in here, because like I said, we can wait as long as we want. Nobody else is waiting, and other people are doing it. And yeah, I'm not sequestering myself. I'm not talking to people, but I'm also seeing what comes across on social media and VPAP and so forth.
I've seen the VPAP website as well. And I guess my only question, and again, we'll talk about this after John presents, is whether or not as a citizen, I was thinking, let's see if we can merge the maps and then put the incumbent information in there, but versus doing it for a Democratic set of maps and a Republican set of maps. So would love to have more dialogue on that, but for right now, we're going to turn it over to John. And thank you for being here, and you have up to an hour. If you can do it shorter than that, that would be great, but you have up to an hour to present your two maps, and thank you so much.
Okay, the mic is on. All right, good morning, commissioners. I'm happy to be here in person in Richmond to go over some maps, and then let me start the Zoom so everyone can see maps. Okay, there's the familiar mapping software. This is the Autobound Edge. So just briefly in starting out, you know, I followed the commission criteria, the guidance that was given. We're looking at minimizing or, you know, being respectful of political subdivisions, counties, independent cities, and towns. And then, let's see, I guess, in drawing these districts, I was, you know, very careful to look at areas where I could minimize those kind of county splits, and I was careful to try to avoid those where I could. Regarding the minority districts and the co-chair's description of them as opportunity or ability to elect districts, you know, that will come up during the presentation. I think overall, I would say about 1/3 of the delegate districts are majority non-white. And in the Senate, I think it's probably about 30% of all the districts. And then, we can look at the categories more as we come to them as defined by the co-chair. So what I would do is, we talked about Northern Virginia as well, so I've got the House of Delegates districts. I did not make any changes to the Northern Virginia districts. So the first district is here in the Northern Neck. So this is all of the Northern Neck, including King George, which is Dahlgren. And then it's one split here around Tappahannock. This is in Essex County. And basically, by making this one county split, I'm able to balance out the population between the Middle Neck district and the Northern Neck district. So the Middle Neck is Matthews, Gloucester, Middlesex, King and Queen, King William, and then a little portion of Essex. It's a one precinct, voting precinct split for those two districts. Then coming into the Hampton Roads area, in the peninsula, just to get an idea of what kind of population we have, there's enough population for 6 delegate districts in the peninsula, taking New Kent in, James City, Williamsburg, York, Poquoson, Williamsburg. I've got Newport News and Hampton. Those are all the localities in that area. So the first district, starting at the top, is New Kent, and then a portion of James City County. James City probably would have to be split in any instance because the way the other independent cities are in that area. But then I have all of York County as whole, as well as the independent city of Poquoson, and just a small portion of Newport News to round out the population. So it was not possible to draw York and Poquoson together without taking a little bit of additional population. So this area here is around Saunders and a portion of another precinct. And it's right along the transportation corridor there. And I'm going to add the roads, because that tends to help a little bit. Let's see if that's right. No, that's not the one. Yeah, I think that helps. So again, I'm basically, in making this cut of the precincts here, I'm following the road boundaries. This is I-64, 17 here, Victory Boulevard. So it's a pretty well-defined split in that area. Then the next district is the city of Williamsburg, independent city of Williamsburg, and a portion of Newport News. As the other map drawer said, Newport News has enough for 2 whole districts and a little bit more. So in this case, I have one district is entirely Newport News, and then I have paired a portion of Newport News with Williamsburg and a portion with Hampton. So down here, these are the 3 districts in this area, and there is some minority voter consideration here. So in this district, it's entirely in Hampton, and this contains the African American community in the city of Hampton. It's primarily all in this district here, and it percentage-wise, it should be, let's see. Yeah, so it's going to be basically just a little over 50% with using the AP, any part black designation that Mr. Strassma was referencing before. So that's entirely in the city of Hampton. And then the African American community in Newport News is in the downtown area. And then this district goes along a well-defined dividing line in the city. It's literally referred to as the Peninsula Dividing Line in some maps in the city. And then that district is also has, again, the substantial minority population in Newport News. And then the district that is the balance of Hampton and Newport News, District 43, has significant minority population as well. You could characterize that, if it's not an absolute majority, it's definitely a substantial majority-minority coalition district, however you would define that. Then taking one step back, so that's 6 districts in there. And I guess the last thing I'd say is in this district that contains Williamsburg, there is also pretty substantial minority population. This is District 40. It is, let's see, it's majority minority at 50% combined conglomerate minority population. So the next area is in Virginia Beach and the Eastern Shore. So basically, if you take the Eastern Shore and Virginia Beach, it's about enough for 6 delegate districts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, maybe miscount this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. So it's about 6 districts. But it's necessary to take a little bit of population from another jurisdiction. So in this case, and I'll talk about the individual seats in a moment, a small portion of Chesapeake, basically 2 voting precincts, is taken into the District 53. And then likewise, just in the overall population, Norfolk has about enough for 3 seats, but not quite. You need a little bit more. So there's a small portion here of South Norfolk and Chesapeake County. And then Portsmouth has a little bit more than a delegate district. So a portion of Portsmouth is combined with the Norfolk seat. So the Norfolk seat has just the amount of Portsmouth it needs and just the amount of Chesapeake it needs to round out a district. And then I'm going to go back to Virginia Beach. Okay, so we talk about the Eastern Shore, and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel comes right in here. And this area here, the Bayside area, the district boundary is here in the Lynn Haven Waterway, and it comes right up here, and it goes right up to the Norfolk border, and that's 1 delegate district. The next delegate district is basically Cape Henry, and it's Great Neck and Little Neck. So those are the 2 areas of Virginia Beach that form a community of interest. Then I've got in another district that's entirely in Virginia Beach is the Naval Air Station, the beach area, and then down to Sandbridge. And then there's 3 additional districts. So there's currently litigation in Virginia Beach regarding the structure of the city government. So the city council districts, they elect them at large, and there's litigation right now. Mr. Ebert's involved in that on behalf of the plaintiffs. So in that litigation, there are proposed remedial districts that the court will be looking at, and it's around the idea of combining the minority communities. So in this drawing of these 2 delegate districts, I'm basically combining some of the districts that were in those plaintiffs' proposals. So basically District 3 and 10, which were majority minority. Again, it's a 10-member plan as opposed to this where we're looking at roughly 5 seats. And then the areas that were in the plaintiffs' Districts 4 and 7. So there's minority populations along this area in this corridor here that combine. So both of these districts have basically the minority communities in Virginia Beach are in these 2 delegate districts. So this one is basically 50-50, and then District 49 is...
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah,
Hold on one second. Delegate Simon. And again, we're trying to hold questions. Yeah.
I understand, because this is very specific to this, what was just said, and I just want to be clear about something. I thought when we gave instructions to the map makers on what to look at, we said not to look at political districts as a community of interest. I'm just trying to understand how you apply this analysis. So in other words, we talked about communities of interest being counties, cities, towns. We said neighborhoods, civic associations, but specifically not to consider magisterial districts and wards and other political districts within these jurisdictions. Did I misunderstand the instructions, or were you just, because of the racial issue, thinking that that would be more important? I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page.
Sure. To answer the question, I was looking at this in terms of the positioning of the minority community within Virginia Beach. And I thought that was a good guideline because it's something that's very present and active right now. And I was aware of the ongoing litigation in that case. So I'm looking at areas where it's the minority community defined in Virginia Beach. As you know, Virginia Beach is fairly integrated community. It actually shows up as, having a lot of minority areas that are very integrated. There's, the Filipino community, there's African-American community. It's got a lot of minority areas. So that's what I was doing in considering that. Moving on, the remaining district here is the area of Strawbridge, and I mentioned a little bit of Chesapeake. Then back to Norfolk. So I've got one district that's entirely in the boundary of Norfolk, and this is the Willoughby Spit and Bayside, as well as the naval base. And it's basically the area right around the naval base. And the two other districts, basically, this takes the minority community in Norfolk, and it basically is both districts have a substantial minority population. They should both be, a little bit over 50%. And what I would say is on this edge here, I mentioned there's minority population in Virginia Beach, and the other map drawer took this portion of Virginia Beach into this district, which was specifically not done by the special master. The special master undid that, if you will, from the initial map that the House of Delegates passed. Then finishing out the Norfolk seat, this area here has African-American community and also some predominantly white areas around Larchmont Library. It's got ODU. And then down here, this takes a portion of Portsmouth and two precincts here, which are South Norfolk. And then I mentioned Portsmouth. The balance of Portsmouth is entirely in one delegate district. And then finishing out the drawing of Chesapeake, you've got South Norfolk and Greenbrier is in one district, and it comes right up to the river as a dividing line. And then the southern seat is Great Bridge and South Chesapeake. And then the third seat here is District 57, which is the western branch, and Camelot, and it has a portion of the city of Suffolk. This is the area around Bennett's Creek. Now, we talked a little bit about the racially polarized voting where there's, from Dr. Palmer's report, there's significant racially polarized voting in South Side. So we also, Senator Barker mentioned Delegate Tyler's district was one area where the court did conclude that a higher percentage of African-American strength was recommended, and indeed that's what happened. So while generally I'm following whole county boundaries here, Brunswick, Emporia, Greensville, Sussex, Southampton, and Franklin, I did take a portion of Suffolk County in this, city of Suffolk here, and this area here has some African-American population in the center and the southern part of the city. And what that does is that does have the effect of increasing the African-American voting strength in this district, which is very competitive as it stands right now. The current delegate election, the previous two elections were fairly close in that area. So I did, in this area where Dr. Palmer said that there was racially polarized voting, I did do that. However, the remaining split of the city of Suffolk pairs with Isle of Wight. And so you have a delegate district that's the balance of Suffolk and Isle of Wight, and that's the district that's right here. Then coming up into the Richmond area, there's basically a county grouping pairing here with Dinwiddie and Petersburg, and a portion of Prince George County right around Petersburg. So this is essentially a community of interest centered around Petersburg as well as Dinwiddie County, and this is majority African American in the 50% or so, about in that range. Then the balance district is Prince George County, Hopewell, Surrey, which is fairly small, about 8% of the delegate district, and then this portion here of Chesterfield. So that's just what's necessary to balance that out, and again, following the county boundaries. So in the Richmond area, let's see, let's go ahead and look at Richmond first. Okay, so the first delegate district is entirely within the city boundary of Richmond. It's basically the south side, the area of Manchester, and then a little bit here north around Hollywood Cemetery, and it follows the precinct lines in this area. And again, that's entirely in the city of Richmond. And that's, let's see. Yeah, so that's going to be, with the any part black, that's going to be pretty close to 50%. And that's District 65 here. Then the special masters version, and this is a little bit similar to that, has Ward 7 of Richmond and a portion of Henrico, and then it also has Charles City, and then it comes down and takes a portion of Chesterfield. So that's similar to the way it is now, and I think, again, I'm not certain, but I think one of the incumbents may live in this area. Then the other seat here is Henrico County, entirely within Henrico, and it's the north side outside of Richmond. And then I have 2 additional seats that cover portions of Richmond. So this has the north side of Richmond, and then it has the east end, excluding the area of Ward 7. And then it has a little bit of population from the south side there. Then the balance of Richmond is basically from the Fan along Monument. It's the west end. And then it's also Stratford Hills, and then up Staples Mill. And that's City of Richmond and a little bit of Henrico County. And then rounding out Henrico County, I have 2 delegate districts here that are basically cut pretty close to the I-64 corridor. So you have 1 district here on the north side, which is, okay, so it's like Sadler and that area, and then down here is Tuckahoe. Then for Chesterfield County, I've got all of Hatton is here, plus the area going into Bon Air and Midlothian. So that's a district along the corridor of 60 from Bon Air out to Powhatan. And then I've got a delegate district here, which is kind of the inner area. And then the surrounding district here. And then the other district in Chesterfield has Colonial Heights and a portion of Chesterfield. So in this area, you have 1, 2, 3 districts entirely in Chesterfield, and then keeping the county whole here and balance of Chesterfield. And then, as I said, this district was impacted by the south side draw. And then, let's see, so at this point, just rounding out the south side, I've got whole counties, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Lunenburg, Nottoway, Amelia, and then Prince Edward is split, with Farmville being intact in a neighboring district here. So the district that includes Farmville has the balance of Prince Edward, Appomattox, Buckingham, Fluvanna, and Cumberland. And then I will come back to, well, actually, let's just do this now. Well, I'll come back to this, to the Lynchburg area. So in the Charlottesville area, coming out of Northern Virginia, I have the counties of Orange and Greene and the northern portion of Albemarle have in 1 delegate district. And let me change the colors. I guess you can see it fairly well, but let's quickly change the colors. So that's going to be 76. Because they're just 2 versions of purple. Let's see if that's a little better. Okay. Okay, so, and again, this is Charlottesville and, the immediate areas of Albemarle County that are around it. And then to the south, there's a district that's South Albemarle with Nelson and Amherst along the 29 corridor down to Lynchburg. And then Lynchburg, as the other map drawer said, it's intact, it's in 1 district. And I took just the minimum precincts necessary right here in Amherst County. These are, right across the river. So that balances that out. Now to the south, with Campbell County and Halifax, which is South Boston, are paired together. This is, principally a Campbell district and South Boston there, but there's a little split here of Campbell County, and it's basically Alta Vista, which is It's a community that pairs with Hurt in Pittsylvania County. So by doing that, by taking just a little bit of Campbell out, I'm able to keep the balance of Pittsylvania with Danville, some Pittsylvania with Martinsville and Henry counties. And so this respects the political subdivisions here, again, with just one split here. Now let's go up to the valley. So we previously had drawn up to Clark County and Warren. So you have up here in the Shenandoah Valley at the extreme northern end, you have Winchester, and this is kind of an end point of the map. So it's Winchester, Frederick County, and then the next district down is Shenandoah, as well as the Stevens City portion of Frederick County. And then previously, I had said that there was a split in the Page County, which is Luray. So you have a Culpeper, Madison, Rappahannock seat, and then Luray is in this seat. And then the balance of Page County rounds out this district, which is Stevens City, Shenandoah, and down. The next area is Rockingham County and the city of Harrisonburg, and that's in a compact district here on the north side. And then the balance of Rockingham County takes a portion of Augusta and the city of Waynesboro. So in this case, the population is a little dense in some ways in this area. So Waynesboro is in a seat separate from Stanton. And then the balance of the seat here is Stanton with the Augusta County. And then I have a seat here that's Clifton Forge to Lexington and Rockbridge County. And then also it has a substantial portion of Botetourt County as well. Then the next district is all of Bedford County, and then just a little bit of Botetourt County, enough to get the population that it needs. And this is along, I think it's 221. And then in the Roanoke area, the city of Roanoke is in one district, but it's too much population, so some of the precincts are split off, and they're put, the balance of the city of Roanoke is in the district that is Salem and the sort of north suburbs, as well as Botetourt. And then the district on the south, this district is principally South Roanoke. It does have Vinton, and then a portion of Franklin County. And this is the area that surrounds Smith Mountain Lake. But the county seat in Rocky Mount is paired with Floyd, Patrick, and Carroll counties. And this is the College of Ferrum is down in this area as well. Rounding it out here, similar to the other map drawer, I have Christiansburg in one seat and Blacksburg in another seat. So the two communities in Montgomery County are in separate districts, which they are, depending on how you look at it, that's one way to look at the communities of interest in the New River Valley. And then rounding it out, I've got with Smith counties, Galax, Grayson, and then just a portion of Carroll County to round out that district. And then in the far southwest, District 100 is Norton and Gate City. And then it has a very small portion here of Russell County around the area of Castlewood. And then likewise, the other coal area is Tazewell, which is Bluefield, Buchanan and Dickinson, and then just a little portion here around of Russell County there. And then I've got Bristol and Abingdon are in a seat with a little bit of Russell, and I covered that. So that's the House of Delegates plan in a nutshell. I think I covered all the districts a little bit at a time. So let me switch to the Senate plan and roll through that and then stop for questions.
Thank you, John.
I'm just gonna, yeah, okay, I have the towns up there. I just want to change to have the road boundaries on. I think it's number 6 or 7. Maybe, yeah, okay. Okay, so in the same way, we came out of Northern Virginia. So the last Northern Virginia seat was right here, which was Spotsy and Orange and Louisa as a district. And then I guess we'll come back to that. So then the next district is in the area of Senator McDougal's area. So this is the northern neck, the middle neck, Caroline, New Kent, King William, and then a substantial portion of Hanover, but not up to the town of Hanover. Then coming down into the peninsula, this is a whole county or whole locality district comprised of Gloucester, James City, Williamsburg, York, and the city of Poquoson, and that's all whole localities. Then I've got a district that's primarily Newport News and a portion of Hampton, and then this area in the minority areas, this is the African American community of Hampton is principally in this District 19, as well as Newport News. So when you think about it, the Senate seats are basically 2.5 delegate seats. So if you had 2 districts with minority population in the House of Delegates in the same area, you basically could combine them roughly into a Senate district. So that's the 2 delegate districts there, and it keeps the minority communities intact in Newport News and Hampton. And then it takes this northern portion of the city of Norfolk, including the base and Bayside and the Willoughby Spit. And it goes down here into Willard. And then the African American community in Norfolk is intact in this District 20. So it includes the African American section of Norfolk, as well as Larchmont Library and Larchmont ODU. And then it also has some areas of South Norfolk and Chesapeake that also have African American voting strength as well, and that's in District 20. And in a similar way, we have a district that includes the Eastern Shore, and then across the Bay Bridge Tunnel, and it has a larger portion, unlike the delegate seat, which stopped here at the Lynn Haven Inlet. This district also includes Little Neck and comes down a little bit into the central portion of the city. And then the balance is Virginia Beach from Cape Henry, Strawbridge, and down to Sandbridge. And then I've got a district that is primarily Chesapeake with the Kempsville area of Virginia Beach. And then the last area here is all of the city of Portsmouth, all of the city of Suffolk, and a small portion of the western branch, and that has a substantial minority population. Here, it's 45% African American, and it'll be a little bit higher using the any part black designation. Then on the south side, I've got sorry, I can hear myself in the past. So this is primarily a South Side district. It's Isle of Wight, Southampton, Emporia, Greensville, Brunswick, up to Mecklenburg, Nottoway, Dinwiddie. And then right here, it has a portion of Prince George, but not all of it. And then the Richmond area seats a similar configuration from the other map drawer. It's Petersburg, Hopewell, and a portion of south side of Richmond and into the city. And then you have the balance of north side of Richmond plus Henrico, and Charles City is another Senate district in Richmond. And then I paired the balance of Richmond on the west end with inner Chesterfield, and that's a Senate district, and that allows another Senate district to be the balance entirely within Chesterfield. And then up here, keeping the political subdivisions, the localities intact, basically the portion of Hanover that was not included in the area where Senator McDougal's district might be, District 16, it's the balance of Hanover And then it's basically short pump down to Tuckahoe. It's the western end of Henrico. So that's a Senate seat. Then I've got a Senate seat in Albemarle, Charlotte. It's Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Nelson, and Buckingham. And that's a whole locality Senate district. Did I miss? And then, here, just going on the numbers. So this district, Senate district, it's Campbell, Appomattox, Prince Edward, Charlotte, and Halifax on the south side. And then some of a couple of these counties are kind of Richmond exurbs, Powhatan, Goochland, Cumberland, and Amelia. And I will point out, in the same way, there's a small split here. So before, there was a split in Campbell County, putting Alta Vista in with the Pittsylvania seat, but in this case, it's kind of the opposite, where I'm basically taking the town of Hurt and having a small division in Pittsylvania County. And so by doing that, it allows the other district to be entirely whole county or whole localities. Pittsylvania, Danville, Martinsville, Henry, and Franklin is the Senate district there. So again, it's like 2 delegate districts and a half. And then let's just finish up the valley. So we'd already talked about Winchester and Frederick County in the Northern Virginia area. So the Senate district here, it's Culpeper to Shenandoah, Rockingham, but not Harrisonburg. So Harrisonburg is with Augusta and the other cities, Waynesboro and Stanton, and then the 2 Allegheny Bench counties, Highland and Bath. Then for the Lynchburg area, it's Lynchburg, Amherst, Rockbridge, and most of Bedford. And then for Roanoke, it's all of Roanoke City, all of Salem City, the southern portions of Roanoke County, and it's really almost all of the county of Roanoke is in here. This is relatively sparsely populated here. And, it's not possible to keep Roanoke in Roanoke County intact because it would be too much population. So I have Giles, which is Parisburg, Montgomery County, Little Craig County, and then up to Allegheny, Clifton Forge, and Covington, and then Botetourt, and a little portion of Bedford. And then the southwest counties, District 40. I've got the other map drawer made a split over here in Pulaski. In my case, I made a split right here in Saltville, in the area around Saltville. Saltville is split by the county line, so in this case, by taking this portion of Smith County, it actually keeps Saltville intact. I have a personal connection to Saltville in my life as well. Okay, so I think that's it for the Senate districts. Let me see if Mr. Tyson has anything to add regarding the Senate or House before I open it up to questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, just to give you the numbers, I'll try to pull up while Mr. Morgan was doing this on the various district counts. I count 8 majority black districts using AP black
And I'm
ballot.
sorry, Mr. Tyson, is that the House, on the House side
Yes.
or the Senate? House?
I'm sorry, House of Delegates.
Yep.
I counted up 8 majority AP black districts and 29 districts that are majority non-white. And then for the Senate, I counted 2 majority black using AP black and 11 that are majority non-white.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we'll open it up for questions on either of the maps. I know I went through a lot of information quickly, but I think I touched on all the delegate districts and all the Senate districts.
Okay. All right. Ms. Babachenko?
Can we look at Hanover for a moment? I see there's a split, and part of it is King's Charter Drive. What was the sort of, what was?
Sorry, in the Senate or in the House?
In the Senate, yes.
Oh, well, basically, the split here is, again, I started with the northern neck, the middle neck, Caroline, New Kent, and then I knew that I was going to split Hanover. So I basically knew that splitting Hanover with some population would balance with Henrico as well. So the split there is just population-based coming right up here.
Well, I mean, are you familiar with Kings? It's a neighborhood, so now half of our planned community, it's a planned community there. From 1980, I believe it was established. It goes straight down the middle.
Okay.
It's a very known neighborhood in Hanover County.
Well, I assume this is a river, a creek or river boundary here is probably what it is. It's following the voting precinct, so this is.
I'm looking at Atlee Station, and then it goes onto King Charter Drive, and that just splits a very large.
Yeah, the way to do that is, you'd pick a slightly different configuration in here and, either put all of the population in one way or the other. And if you did that, you would probably have to go up to Hanover or take it all in here. You could kind of crisscross to sort of make that community whole.
Okay, I mean, I just want to make sure that there's ways to move some things around.
I think so. And again, I've followed the voting precinct boundary, and this is the creek in the area it's a voting precinct boundary. That's why it's split that way. It wasn't, looking to break up a community that exists. It was just following the precinct boundaries.
My children will go to, I guess, one Senate district for kindergarten, and then they go to another Senate district for middle school and high school, but it's all right next to each other. That area is very densely populated compared to the rest of Hanover.
Sure. But, like I said, population-wise, this split paired, and there's other ways to adjust it, to keep the community together.
Thank you. All right. Other commission comments? Senator Barker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Barker here. I just wanted to make a comment on one issue that doesn't necessarily have anything to do directly with either of the two maps.
Please speak into the mic so we can hear you.
All right, anything that does not necessarily have anything necessarily to do with either of the two maps. And that is that there's pretty clear evidence that there is a mistake in the census data as it relates to the black population in the city of Williamsburg. The census data shows that it went from 15% black in 2010 to 40% black in 2020, tripling in black population, basically. And I've talked with the senator who lives in Williamsburg, and he's talked with the city people, and they say there's no way whatsoever that could possibly be true. So it's not anything we can deal with, we could change right now, but I think we just need to be aware of that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I remember last time around there was a big concern with like one precinct that had 20,000 people in it that, wasn't there, was related to the naval base. So it's a similar issue where there's some sort of miscount.
That was Norfolk, and actually when they first came out with the 2010 census, they did not have that data.
That's right. That's right.
Data. It was 25,000 or 27,000 people in that one precinct. So.
And these are instances where you're right. It's a problem with the census data itself, and so it's just the way things were counted. And I don't know if it was something related to group quarters or if it was just some sort of other error. It'll be interesting to see how that gets resolved because the census has a census count resolution process, which probably will get resolved after your work is done here.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, other comments, questions for John, clarity? Senator Locke? And John, are you still sharing your screen? It's like we've lost the video feed, or?
I'll reshare it.
Or no?
We did lose. We switched to automatic since you all were speaking.
Okay.
We're having to hop back and forth.
Okay, all right. Senator Locke, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question about Newport News in Hampton area. Are you splitting Newport News? That's one question.
Yes, Newport News is in 2 Senate districts. It's got basically the downtown portion of Newport News is combined with Hampton and portion of Norfolk, and then the northern section of Newport News is paired with the balance of Hampton. So that's how that is.
And a follow-up question.
Yes.
And Hampton is a part of Newport News and Norfolk?
Yes, there's Hampton, Newport News, and a part of Norfolk, and then the other district is Newport News and a part of Hampton. And, you know, what's basically happening is it's coming down the peninsula here, so one Senate district, another Senate district, and then this district connects over the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, if you will.
Okay, now I have a comment.
Yes.
Madam Chair, my comment is simply that I keep hearing about, you know, the Voting Rights Act and Section 5 no longer matters in terms of retrogression, but I just want to be clear about retrogression. And I keep hearing that, you know, we're reducing to two majority minority districts. I just have a problem with retrogression, and I heard it in the first set of maps, and I heard it in this set of maps. I have a serious problem with retrogression. With House districts and with Senate districts. And if I keep hearing about this retrogression and the reduction of the number of minority districts, I can't see myself moving forward with these maps.
Okay, let me just say that, again, these are draft maps from both map drawers, and we have 3 weeks to make recommended changes and adjustments. This is just a starting point for us as a commission to make recommendations to get maps that we hopefully can all agree on and submit to the General Assembly. Delegate Simon?
So, Madam Chair, in light of what Senator Locke has said, and I think some of the conversation we had about the earlier map and Mr. Hebert's comments about there being an argument, at least, that Virginia law having retrogression would be problematic within the context of Virginia law. It seems like we might, since we're all here and we had an in-person meeting, want to adopt some further criteria or instructions for the map drawers as they go back to avoid retrogression. Because like I said, we've said these are drafts and we said that they want to be done, but when we tell them to go back and work on it some more, it feels like we ought to give them some more guidance as to what they ought to be working on. And it sounds like one of the things we want them to work on from Senator Stanley, and I don't know what was good for him, but at least from Senator Locke's comments and some of the other concerns we've heard, is that, and since there's some confusion about whether we need to apply Section 5 or whether we want to apply what Section 5 used to do to Virginia, I would suggest that we go ahead and give the map makers instructions to avoid retrogression as much as practicable, I think, is the word that we need to use.
Okay. Other comments to Delegate Simon's suggestion?
Madam Chairman?
Yes,
I'll
Senator McDougal.
I just point out that on the agenda, it says no votes will be taken at this meeting. So
Fair enough.
We might want to discuss doing things for the future, but I think we kind of all,
No.
and we told the public that, and I think we'll be back on, was it Thursday? It's not very long.
Okay, that's fine. Other comments? Okay, thank you, John.
Madam Chair?
Oops, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think we may have talked about this at a different meeting, but the Senate map, District number 9, we maybe talked about it at a different meeting, but I don't remember. Did you have an explanation for the funny shape of District 9? This is one that kind of almost looks like the classic bird of political cartoons on the Senate map, I think.
Sorry, you said Senate District 9 in Prince William County?
Yeah.
Okay, it's Manassas Park, and it's City of Manassas Park and
It almost has
Manassas.
like a little beak there on the left. So could you just remind us of why it had
Sure,
to be that way?
this is the city boundary of Manassas. So that these precincts, there's like 6 voting precincts in Manassas, and this, I forget if it's Weems or another one, down in this area. That's one voting precinct, and it's the airport. So that's why it's configured that way. So that's a municipal boundary.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam Chair, just to follow up and agree with what Mr. Morgan is saying. That's the city line of Manassas that goes out and reaches to the airport and to an industrial area where they are, Micron is in that area and several other companies. And they did it as an economic development issue and worked it out with the county of Prince William.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, thank you so much, John. Okay. Before we switch to hear from our communications and outreach consultants, which they should be queuing up and getting ready to present, do people have thoughts on how we might go about trying to integrate the two different maps? Honestly, when I look at it just from a 30,000-foot view, there are quite a number of similarities in southwest and south side, maybe even in central Virginia. It's really the more urban populations where there's just a different approach to the map drawing, where we probably have to get more granular. But you know, for Thursday or for next week, would we like to begin to have the map drawers work in tandem with one another to produce maybe a third map to see where we do have overlap, and just given the principles and guidance that we've already given, that we see where there is, with a modest amount of adjustment, where we could get portions of the state lined up, and then it's really the urban crescent is where we probably have the most differences. How do people react to that?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Babachenko.
I mean, I like that idea. Even, can I ask John and Zach, even District 40 in Southwest, it looks almost exactly the same, except I think John's map takes a portion and that Zach's map does not. And so that's going to be a population difference, and that's on the Senate map. Is there, I mean, something like that could be the same area? Can you guys just really briefly talk about why you either included or did not choose to include that?
Sure. Let me just take the first stab at that. So, and I don't need to share. I'm going to look at this on my screen, but I think the concepts are similar. So if you think about it this way, we basically have the same counties and localities in two districts, and three, I guess you could say. It's pretty close. But for those two districts, the difference is only whether to split Pulaski, or in my case, I split Smith. And again, I was cognizant of Saltville in that decision. But they're very, very similar. All of the jurisdictions are the same. It's just for population reasons, there needs to be a split somewhere.
And so is that something you can talk about, or is that something that the two of you can talk about, or is that something that we need to all talk about and just make a sort of tentative, give tentative direction, knowing that we may have to go back and do something different based on everything else, and just see where it goes? Would that be helpful to you in saying, hey, why don't you guys kind of do the same thing in that area and just see where the rest of it, make the same split there, and let's work on the rest, and do that for a few of these portions? I think at least in the Senate map, part of the area on the eastern part of the state looked similar. They were labeled two different Senate districts number-wise, but they had the same shift except for the very south, where you're pulling from the south border. Do you need, I think it was 21? I'm sorry. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, there are some differences, and again, as we said previously, some districts may look similar, but I think in terms of evaluating it, you'll want to look carefully at the data, because there may be differences that will come out in looking at the data that are associated with those districts. And the other thing I'd say is it would probably be a good idea to involve the attorneys in some part of this process.
So Ken, do you have comments on our conversation right now on an approach where you and John could work in tandem with one another to see the areas that are less, that have similar approaches to how you're drawing the district lines.
So, Madam Chair, if that was the sense of the commission, we'd be happy to confer with Mr. Morgan about districts that seem very substantially similar, and if we could standardize the district numbers for those. I do agree with the earlier comment that even though something may visually appear quite similar, until we get direction to look at the political data, we won't we won't know for sure the implications. But in circumstances like the example raised earlier, where it's just a very minor split that was chosen to be done differently for population equality, I think we can begin to standardize those in order to save everyone's time and narrow in our focus on the areas where there might be more substantive disagreement.
So I'm wondering if you two, by Thursday, is that when we're meeting again? Thursday? Is that possible? Is that enough time for you all to look around the state in the areas that have a similar shape, and then you look at the data and to see what a map, how much of the state would be somewhat similar between a Republican and a Democratic viewpoint? And I think at some point or another on Thursday, we probably need to be prepared to give additional guidance on the retrogression issue. And then I'd love to hear thoughts, and we can talk for a few more minutes and still stay on time, on when incumbent data needs to be included. And, I'm leaning, though I'm open to suggestions, that not happen until we have one version of a Senate map and one version of a House map, and then place incumbent information on that. But I'm open to hear different viewpoints on that. Mr. Kumar, and then Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Sean Kumar. I agree with what you expressed, and that, anything that the map drawers can do to try to come to consensus wherever possible, given that we have two partisan different sets of maps, it's not like we're going to be able to have a voter consensus and just choose one over the other, right? We've got to come to one, like you said. So anywhere where there's areas of agreement or any creative ideas between the two map drawers that they can discuss amongst themselves and bring to us Thursday about approaches where they could see getting to one map together as much as possible in a collaborative approach. I'm not trying to put all of this on them or expect that they'll be able to do that, but it's obviously probably advantageous as far as they can get, because us taking time as a commission to kind of battle that out is going to be probably less efficient and productive. So anything they can do.
And I guess I would just augment what I requested of the map drawers, that the attorneys will be in lockstep with them and giving guidance, given some of the comments and questions that commissioners have made today, and to inform your guidance to the map drawers. And I'm talking to the attorneys now, some of the concerns and desires that commission members have. So you can take a lot of just take those comments into effect as you're helping to guide the map drawers in their consolidation of map recommendations. Senator Barker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Barker speaking here. I agree that we need to get the map drawers working together to try to figure out sort of some commonality and to get us moving in the direction of having one map. But I also think that given that there's already information out there in the public sphere that deals with the election results and with the incumbent addresses, that it would behoove us to have our official set of information there, because not everything would match up with the information that we have through the Division of Legislative Services here. And I think it would be helpful to get from them the information on the election results, which are already in the system, but also on the incumbent addresses, which has clearly become a significant issue. So I think that it would be good to get from them information as to where the incumbents live, so that those issues can be addressed, so.
Okay. So I do think we publicly said we weren't taking any votes on this today, but I think for Thursday's agenda, to my co-chair, we probably need to, so not for Thursday will we have incumbent information, but I think we need to, it's coming. It's just a matter of timing as to when we include that. Any other thoughts or comments as we move forward? Mr. Hebert, did you have a statement, please?
Yes, I do. Thank you. This is Jerry Hebert. There are a couple of things I think outstanding. One is that both map drawers have correctly noted that there is additional data coming about communities of interest, and that will not be something they can address between now and Thursday.
Yep.
So that's just one point to bear in mind. The other is that Mr. Strasma pointed this out, that while the criteria say that the deviation should be plus or minus 2%, where practicable, if you decide that you permit going above 2%, say, to not split a county or a city, where you could go maybe to 2.5% or 3%, it's probably good to let the map drawers at least explore that to see if they can reduce the number of split political subdivisions between now and Thursday or now and next Monday. So that's one thing. And then finally, and I think Senator Barker's point about, it is at this point, I think, incumbent upon the map drawers as well as the attorneys to look at some of these districts and assess performance of minorities. That also can't be done between now and Thursday completely, because we won't have the primary election returns, which also bear on the issue of political cohesion among minority groups. So there's a lot of data still out there. I just wanted to call your attention to that as a commission.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Senator McDougal.
Thank you. We clearly want this to move as quickly as possible, but because we are expecting data back Thursday that I think is going to change what we're looking at now, shouldn't we wait for additional guidance to come after we get that data and it's been imported, and then we can see where we need to go? Because, I've heard what Senator Locke said, and I've heard what Mr. Hebert said and Mr. Tyson. I just think that we're going to have to make some changes to what we've done once we get that data. So if we give additional guidance, and then we have to go back in and apply the data, we may or may not like the guidance that we gave additionally before we applied the data that we already know we have to do.
Yeah.
So I know we need to move quickly, but I don't want to.
No, we aren't asking the map drawers to duplicate their efforts, but this is a very iterative process. We'll see multiple versions of maps, and in the case of South Side and Southwestern Virginia, some parts of Central Virginia, there hasn't been indication of racially polarized voting, and so the additional data that we're going to get on the voting analysis probably will have less impact in those parts of the state, and that's all I'm looking at, is trying to see where we can reconcile maps as much as we can. But it's going to keep changing until we get ready to vote 3 weeks from now.
Madam Chairman, I don't disagree with that. I was speaking directly to the point of us giving additional guidance to the map drawers on I think it's what we had talked about, maybe taking up on Thursday. And so should we not apply the new data that we expect to have back by Thursday before we give that additional guidance? I think reconciling the areas that are pretty much or close to agreement is a good idea, but additional guidance, I would suggest maybe we should get the data, have the map makers apply that data before we go with additional guidance. Because maybe other people have been doing this longer and can say, I have a good idea what that data will change. I personally don't. So I'd like to know what changes would occur with that data before we come up with additional guidance.
Do we know if that analysis is going to be ready by Thursday? Do we know when that additional voting analysis by Dr. Palmer is going to be completed?
We don't, we know that at least the agreement with Fred was that the data for the primaries would be loaded into DLS by Thursday. That was
Okay.
the original agreement.
Right.
Dr. Palmer's prepared and told me he would immediately begin looking at those data Thursday. That can be, probably have the results by Monday.
Okay, of next week, a
Right.
week from now. So I think the broader issue in my mind is, and would, again, love feedback on that, is where the Virginia Constitution goes a little bit deeper than our legal, at least a portion of the legal counsel's interpretation of the federal laws. I think Virginia's Voting Rights Act is much more specific and can give additional guidance. I think this is where we had a partisan split a week or so ago, but I think that is coming to a head in the next meeting or two to be able to give additional guidance, really, that I think would begin to address concerns of retrogression in some of the maps that we're going to be working on. So again, nothing to decide today, but it's coming, and I think people should be thinking about, again, our overall motivation is how to produce fair maps for all citizens across the Commonwealth as we go forward. Mr. Kumar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Mr. Hebert's note, I mean, I think it is worth considering maybe going above that 2% to 2.5 to 3. I know we're not going to vote on that, but I'd be, for one, would be open to exploring that if it makes if it keeps some of those localities intact. And then it's also going to create a lot less dissension. I think it's going to give us more areas of agreement between the two sets of map drawers in doing so. And then on the point of Thursday, you know, it also makes me wonder, I know we have a lot of work to do, but if we're waiting on data to come in Thursday that then must be applied into the maps, it kind of makes me wonder what we'll be able to do on Thursday, and maybe, you know, obviously leaving it to the discretion of the co-chairs, but if that time would be better spent by the map drawers trying to come to agreement and input that data so we see what the impacts are. I mean, you know, if there's a lot we can do on Thursday, great, but if not, maybe we add an additional virtual meeting after we get the data so we can really take a look at it.
Right. That's a possibility too. And the other portion, and so I would encourage the map drawers to flex their muscle, because the Virginia law allows up to 5% deviation up or down. So I appreciate the conservative nature that both map drawers applied in their first version of maps, but you can be, you know, by law in Virginia, you can stretch your creativity. And again, I think the first versions did a really good job. I was looking at the comments that were coming in live stream, and people are, not everybody, but a lot of people are happy with the communities of interest and how we were able to protect some of those. And I think having that flexibility on the deviation gives more opportunities to keep communities whole. So, yes, Madam Babachenko.
Thank you. And in line with that, are we able to have the map drawers go back and work together to explore those maybe outside of the 2% deviations so that they are kind of going in that direction? They can both look at each other's maps and see if that flexibility gets them to a closer part. We've preserved what they've already done. We can always take a step back and go back to this set of maps, the third statewide maps. So I think just seeing other options would be great if they would be able to do that to cut down on some of the areas where there were just many, many districts being split up and included with each other. So that would be my suggestion in line with Mr. Kumar, kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Kumar just said.
Okay. Senator Barker, last comment, and then we're going to hear from our communications and outreach consultants so they can be queued up.
All right, yes, I would hope that we would be able to get the general election data, which are already in the system. It's only the primary data that we're waiting to get on things. And that relates specifically to the fair partisan balance that is in the Code of Virginia. by, hopefully in advance of Thursday, but if not, then at Thursday's meeting, and also get the incumbent precincts so that we understand the reality of what's there, and we have accurate information rather than just sort of taking, Virginia Public Access Projects, what their best effort in trying to deal with the incumbent precincts and also be able to deal with the general election data.
Okay.
I do want to note that the data, the election results data for the general elections is currently available online for all of the maps that have been presented thus far. You can go to the 2021 redistricting plan data.
Okay.
And for any of the maps, we have data tables, district reports, and GIS data. And with the data tables, you'll see it's a spreadsheet, 4 tabs, and one of those is election results.
Thank you, Meg Lamb.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Delegates Lemon-
So my question about that is, maybe Ken's about to ask the same question, but so yeah, it's there. I mean, I can go and I can eyeball it and count up districts and stuff like that. I guess the question is, do we want the map makers to look at it yet? It's there, but is it okay for them to start looking at it as they move these lines around to look for opportunities for consensus and so forth? I think that's what Senator Barker and I, putting aside the question of incumbent addresses for a second, but I may or may not agree with you on that yet, but it's there, it's out there. VPAP has it, Twitter has it. I mean, these guys don't live in a bubble, they see it. So, I mean, it seems to me like we ought to rip the Band-Aid off and say, just take a look at it as you're doing your work, but that's just me.
So if that data is available, Meg, do you have suggestions as to how that could be incorporated into the third layer of maps that we're asking for?
Madam Chair, I think you all would just need to give direction to the map drawers to start looking at the election data. They already have access to it in their redistricting software application. It's a matter of just clicking on the tab to open it.
Is that a vote, or can that just be saying it's available? Just like you have the ability to go up to 5% deviation, if it's state data that's available, are we asking them to begin to consider all of that in their proposed map drawing? Mr. Kumar?
Madam Chair, yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It seems like it's highly relevant to even the racial breakdowns that we're talking about, right? So that's going to be necessary, and there seems to be agreement. So, I mean, I know we said we weren't going to take a vote today, but it seems inevitable, and I mean, I'd be okay with the co-chairs just directing that, because it's for the racial analysis purposes that's highly relevant to, some of the major things we've discussed today.
I don't, my personal opinion, I don't think it needs to be a formal vote if there is general consensus. If we start to feel like we might be seeing a divide among the commissioners, then you might want to wait to give a formal vote.
Senator McDougal?
Madam Chairman, I guess I'm really reluctant to throw political data in at this juncture. I mean, I know we will be doing it, and I think maybe I have a difference of opinion than some of my elected colleagues. I would, for me personally, ultimately, that would be toward a last step. If we do it right now, it's a middle step. And so I just have some real reluctance to doing it at this step. I do think that we are going to get the additional data on Thursday. We'll get the analysis from Dr. Palmer, so we'll be able to put that into place. But once you put that election data in, I don't know how you unwind that. It is going regardless of whether outside groups are doing it, when it's on our maps, it's going to be hard for anybody to look at anything and not see that very directly. So I do have some concerns.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Kumar?
I guess, I mean, I'm also, in general principle, would prefer that we avoid it until later. The main reason that I think that it would be good to consider sooner rather than later is to get better fidelity on the racial breakdown issue, because the minority populations alone without the voting patterns don't give us the complete picture for what we're going to have to know for purposes of regression. I guess perhaps, but I'm also sensitive to both the optics of it and the reality of it that Senator McDougal raised, and I guess would maybe ask the map drawers do they feel, as we're asking them to be more collaborative, that having that data would make it harder for them to collaborate? Would it be better if they inserted that after, or would it be easier knowing it now?
Ken and John?
Madam Chair, Ken Strasma. So my opinion is it would make things easier. As I said in my introductory remarks, we know this is a draft because both for the political neutrality and the voting rights districts, some changes to that will have to be informed by the political data. And I'd also echo what was pointed out, that this isn't external data that we're waiting to be loaded. It's there when the public sees the reports that come with both of our maps. Political data is there. We just haven't looked at it as the commission instructed. But it does sort of feel like the map drawers are the only people in the state who have not yet looked at the political data. And I feel that, the sooner you direct us to look at that, the more efficient we'll be. But of course, we defer to your instruction on that.
All right, John, and
Yeah.
then James Abrinio.
In general, that sounds fine. In consultation with the legal counsels, I think we can probably work something out on that fairly easily.
Mr. Abrinio?
Yes, James Abrinio. It seems to me that we're using political data, and maybe this is oversimplification, for two purposes: the Voting Rights Act, and then for partisan bias. And it seems like...
Speaking to the mic,
Sorry.
please.
Oh, I apologize. It seems to me that we're using political data for two reasons: the Voting Rights Act, and then also partisanship. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't. It sounds like in order to use the political data for Voting Rights Act, at least the way we're doing it, we would need the primary results to really get to the full analysis. Whereas for the partisanship, I think, and that's probably where Senator McDougal is going, we don't yet want to apply it for purposes of partisanship yet, but I would want to do it for purposes of the Voting Rights Act. Is there a way, from a practical standpoint, for the map drawers to look at the data for purposes of Voting Rights Act at this point? Can they do it without the primary data? Or are we just, is it impossible to apply it that way? Does that, I know I'm asking a kind of a run-on question, but does that question make sense? Yeah.
Mr. Hebert?
Yes, Jerry Hebert. I think that general election returns, which is what's in the database now, have to be analyzed for purposes of Voting Rights Act districts, along with primary election results. But they both need to be included, and it could, once you know how minorities perform in the general, then you have to go back and look at what happened in the primary to see whether or not two minority groups perhaps split over candidates so that they're not cohesive in the primary, but they are in the general. But I do think it's a good first step in assessing minority performance to see who prevailed in the general election. So I think it would be helpful, but is it essential? No. We can wait, but time is of the essence.
And Commissioner Brian Tyson here, I agree with Jerry on this point. We are going to need to use the political data for purposes of determining ability to elect. That's going to be part of the process. But I think that we're going to want the primary data to do that. And I think kind of once you open the door, it's all there. I also hear the map drawers that, from their perspective, they're the only ones who haven't taken a look at this yet. And I'm sure as the process goes along here, there's going to be a lot more people looking at the partisan nature of things. But we could focus on just the voting rights districts, I think, maybe a way to help with that. But I think generally speaking, kind of once you open the door, it's open.
If I could have a follow-up to that. I actually like that suggestion, if it's practical and it's applicable, if the map drawers say that they can do it, perhaps using the political data for that narrow purpose at this point at the hot spots, and then we can kind of introduce it later on when it's appropriate.
Okay, all right. So I'm talking to the co-chair. I'm also watching the clock. And I think what we'd like to do is the two of us will think about it, and then we'll talk with the attorneys probably tomorrow and giving additional guidance to the map drawers regarding the election results that are already in the database. So if you'll give us until tomorrow, there are a couple of questions, but we're good. All right, so we're going to move on and hear from our communications and outreach consultants. And Mindy or Esmel, are you guys on the line?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mindy Carlin with Access Point Public Affairs. I have a few slides I was going to run through. Is it okay for me to share my screen?
Please do.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Wanted to provide a quick update on our team's communications and outreach. We have, as the members of the commission are aware, provided initial reports on public input received to date on Friday evening. I have here in this slide just a reminder of the manner in which we have been collecting public input to date. And so you'll see just name, email, subject, comment. And so with that, we were limited in how we could organize the data and the input for your review. Of the public comments received to date, 377 of the total 600, 63% included some reference to a geographic location. And so we manually went through and scanned all of the comments and pulled out those where we could assign a region and submitted reports for your review for each of the regions, as well as a report with all of the input received to date that did not mention a specific geographic location. And here's just a quick screenshot that shows we provided the data that was included and obviously couldn't provide data that wasn't. And hopefully that information makes it a lot easier for members of the commission to review. You'll see here, again, based on input where we did not ask for their geographic location, you can see the breakdown of the comments received to date, with Northern Virginia being at 151, Central up next, West Central, and so on. So moving forward, we look forward to kind of having more information about a lot of things, including the locality of the commenter, as well as the region the comment is about. Moving forward, we have created a Google form following the discussion when we last presented, and we are told that will replace the fields that are on the website by the end of the day today. As discussed on our last update, we will be asking the following questions moving forward. So name, email, both locality and region. And in the Google form we created, it actually includes the map of the regions. Stakeholder type, commenters will be able to indicate if they're a private individual, private business, elected official, organization, volunteer, staff, or other. If they're a part of an organization, their organization name, specific, there's an additional item that's not here. So the comment type, so whether it is a comment with respect to just the operation of the commission or a specific map, and then they'll be able to indicate which map they're commenting on with a drop-down checkbox. Topics of interest, they'll be able to check what topics of interest if they would like to. And as we discussed when we last met, we pulled out those items from the commission's criteria. So population equity, voting rights and political participation, communities of interest, political neutrality, or other. And community of interest is an optional. What is the community of interest you'd like to comment on, name and description, and then we'll have an ability to sign up to receive future updates. So this will really enable us to add more information and organize the information in different kinds of ways for the commission's consideration. Any questions on data organization or status before I shift to the communications and outreach?
Cindy, this is Greta. When will this additional organization of comments be done? When will that be fully operational on behalf of the commission?
Madam Chair, thank you. So that will be the new organization, we're told the new form will be uploaded to the website by the end of the day today. And so any public input received after that will happen through this new Google form. And so it's a looking forward. There's no way to look back beyond what we've already done.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarity. And Delegate McQuinn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, with one of the, some of the information that we received there
Can you talk into the mic, Delegate McQuinn?
some of the information that we have received in terms of comments, and I guess we are talking about, but there was one, under one situation where a person, the same person responded 9 times, and then there was another individual 3 times, the same statement. And so I guess as we are looking at this and getting this information out, that we want to be, to make sure that, you know, the one individual or this person is not being counted 9 times in terms of correspondence and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Ms. Lamb?
Delegate McQuinn, are you looking at one of the documents that was at your seat? So this is actually generated separate from Meeks and Access Points program. This is something that we are able to generate from the maps on our website where people go and leave specific comments. So it might be that a person had the same comment for multiple parts of a map, and that might be why we're seeing it more than once. But I think that will probably explain that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and Cindy, are you capturing, like when the map drawers were presenting the maps earlier today, people were actually putting comments in and we could see new information popping up. Are you able to capture that as well?
Madam Chair, Mindy Carlin, thank you. Yes, moving forward, those, and Meg maybe can correct me if I'm wrong, but DLS will provide that information prior to us implementing our Google form, which will happen by the end of the day, to us directly, and we will then format that like we have formatted the other data that you received on Friday.
Could the question be repeated? Sorry.
Madam Chair.
She asked if I could comment on something.
Madam Chair, yes. Thank you, Meg. Just that the comments that are on the website, is that I can't recall if you sent those to us via email or how we can access those comments. I guess the short answer, Madam Chair, is that yes, we will include that information in our reports to you. And we'll work with DLS on how to get that if we...
On a go-forward basis. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let me apologize. Mindy, I'm sorry, I think I was calling you Cindy, all right? And we have Mr. Abrinio here.
Yes, and I guess I'm trying to understand the interaction
The
between...
mic, is your mic on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to get a better understanding between the interactive map that we've been kind of following along with, and we can pinch in and zoom in, and the comments there versus what you guys are doing. I actually really think it's very useful to be able to see these comments as I'm like zooming in and I can see, you know, I can click on it, it's literally interactive. Is there a way, is that going to happen reverse to where, and maybe it's just it wouldn't be practical to where those comments could like go to the map? Does that make sense?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mindy Carlin. Thank you for that question. So we are only tracking those comments submitted either via email or through the map, or excuse me, through the website. I believe that the Citygate is tracking and reporting on all of the comments received directly on a map. We can certainly, I mean, what we have is available to them, and we can discuss with them if there's a way to show that in a way other than what we have to date.
And to be clear, I don't try to overcomplicate things, so I'll leave it up to you, but just it's useful. Yeah. It's very useful. So
I think if there is a way to sort of connect those two information streams, that would be very useful, but we understand some of the technological limitations.
Yep, staff will work with Meeks and Access to see if we can get our report and their reports all merged.
Okay, all right. Mindy, continue on, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder on what our communications and outreach goals is: to ensure members of the public understand how and where to provide input, and that time is of the essence; to increase attendance and input at public hearings and commission meetings; to reach as many Virginia residents as possible, to encourage public input, reach as many Virginia residents as possible, and to conduct targeted outreach with historically underrepresented and disadvantaged populations to encourage input, as well as rural communities as well, which we would put in a similar category. So to that end, this is an update on what we've been doing in the messaging content website functionality. The expanded FAQs have been added to the Commission website. Once our Google form is implemented, we've added a function so that once someone comments, they'll receive a confirmation message. We are working with our vendor on website optimization. I don't know if it's just because I search the Commission a lot more often now, but I know when I search and pull it up, it's the first thing that shows up. We'll be making, with graphics approval, we'll be making just some messaging who, what, where, when, why updates on the website by the end of this week. And then we'll be looking for opportunities to have a pop-up. So when anyone goes to the website, they are able to subscribe for future updates. We did receive an initial set of graphics that we will plan to use in social media, digital media, and on our website. So here I show the static graphic. It's actually a rotating GIF that you guys all received the link for. And I can try to show that to you guys here as well. So first one. So you'll see that takes an individual through and kind of connects, providing input to the Virginia Capitol. The second one has similar images, but ends on the same graphic to learn more, where an individual can click and go to the Google form to provide input. And then this is the third draft graphic.
Mindy, are those going to be in different languages when they go out on the various social media platforms?
So thank you, Madam Chair, Mindy Carlin. We're in the process of kind of working through how we can ensure language accessibility, whether it's through these graphics or others, but that is definitely kind of in the mix, and we will be providing more detail on the strategy around that. Just wanted you guys to get an initial look at kind of the concepts of what we received from the vendor we're working with on this.
Nope, I like them. I don't know if other commissioners have general feedback on that, but I think they're cute, it's good. What I'm more concerned about is timing. We are maybe 2 weeks out from public hearings. So when do you think these will go live?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mindy Carlin. So our expectation is that our social media, we have social media accounts set up, but not live yet. We were waiting on graphics. So we expect that to be in the next day or two. And we expect to launch the social media, digital media advertising and targeting by Thursday or Friday of this week.
Okay. And I just, again, acknowledging the changing demographics in the Commonwealth, I think having at least a variety of languages that are dominant in the state is going to be really critical in making sure that we can get to as many segments of our population across the state. So we're excited to see that, and maybe I would just ask the staff when this is ready to go live that the commissioners get a note or an email so that we can sign up and link and be able to monitor those activities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mindy Carlin. So with that, our plan following the most recent discussion with staff was to look at the languages where we have translations on the Virginia State Board of Elections website as our guide, and then go beyond there. With respect to targeting as well, you'll see I'm going to go just very briefly through a couple updates on our outreach strategies, but we'll certainly be targeting our digital media advertising using Facebook, Google Ads, and display ads. And with the display and Google Ads in particular, looking at those communities that represent kind of under historically disadvantaged communities, looking at communities in rural Virginia to ensure that we are trying to connect there as well. I think in seeing the comments received to date, clearly we've not received, they are definitely fewer comments than any of the other regions. And so we will have a lot more information both on the budget, which commissioners will have to approve to move forward with that digital advertising. And so our plan is to have that budget to you by for your Thursday meeting to act on. And upon being approved, that would be able to initiate then.
Great.
Madam Chair, moving forward, so we talked last update about the various ways beyond digital media and social media that we are expecting to kind of launch and share information and encourage input using members of the General Assembly and members of Congress to share with their constituents. We've already reached out both to VML and VACO, and they are already promoting information about the Commission's efforts to their members and constituents, and will continue to provide information to them. I referenced the digital media advertising and targeting. We last week, or maybe it was, yes, last week, created a way for members of the public to suggest organizations and groups to receive future update. So that link is here. It was also sent to all of the individuals who've signed up for updates to date. And once our social media sites are live, we'll promote that there as well. We referenced when we last spoke about leveraging existing state relationships and networks to share information and encourage public input. We have a call this week with Dr. Underwood's office and Dr. Underwood herself to talk about the extensive 5,000 plus list that they have been using as they communicate about COVID vaccination and testing. So that will be something that we'll be able to leverage to share information. And then have an extensive list of NGO, non-government organizations. And that's the list that we're updating based on input from members of the public. And we also, I know we spoke when we last gave an update, encourage members of the commission to suggest groups and organizations in your communities that you want to make sure receive information. So it's truly as broad a net as possible. And then last, Madam Chair, we have created a media tracker, and that's being updated on a daily basis with news reports regarding the commission and its efforts, so that members of the commission can access that easily and in one place. So thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions, but hopefully that gives at least a quick update on our efforts since we last spoke.
Thank you very much, Mindy. Are there comments or requests from the commission regarding this? I think, my overall, I'm excited to see all that's going on and is about to happen. But I think we're just anxious to get everything live as quickly as we can because that will give us roughly 2 weeks before the public hearings, and we're wanting to engage with citizens as much as we can in this process. So I think that's it. Mindy, thank you so much for your work, and we'll look forward to seeing you again on Thursday. All right?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So at this point, I believe that we are, well, let me address one thing before we go to the public comments. And right now we have 2 individuals who, no, nobody? Sorry. They had to go. Okay. So we have no individuals right now. So there have been several comments from commissioners around whether or not we would go virtual on Thursday. And I know for those of you who live around the state, it's a haul to get here on a regular basis. There's concern around focus, honestly, when, we all multitask when we are on these virtual calls, and we are getting to a critical point where we need everyone to be focused like a laser on the information that we're hearing and the decisions that we're trying to decide upon together. I mean, I'm looking around the room and, you know, I'd love to hear from you. I think that my co-chair and I are really thinking that we ought to be here in person for this work. There will be votes, it sounds like, on Thursday. So if we do have votes, we actually need a quorum in person. And looking at the DLS staff, I think that's correct, right? If we anticipate votes being taken, then we need a quorum in person. So maybe I just take that off the table, that I think we really do need to be here in person, and I'll just give extra kudos to those of you who have to drive either late at night or early in the morning to get here. We appreciate the extra effort. But, you know, three more weeks and a big piece of our work will be behind us, hopefully. And then we move to the congressional maps. But thank you guys for all that you're doing, and starting to get fun now. And we'll look forward to seeing each other in just a couple of days. Ms. Lamb?
We do have one speaker who joined us.
Okay. And is that Aaron Corbett or Ankin Jane?
Second one.
Excuse me, the second one? Okay.
Madam Chair, it's
Yes.
Ankit Jane.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name.
Okay. Mr. Jane?
Hey, all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you and welcome, and thanks for being here today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for getting me in. You got me just in time. I wanted to comment, two comments. One on the Northern Virginia part of the maps, the communities of interest. And second is on partisanship. If you guys, I don't know, if you don't want to hear that, you can close your ears or something like that right now. But I'll start with the communities of interest. I looked at the maps and I just wanted to indicate that for Northern Virginia, I think they both do a pretty good job of protecting communities of interest. But map A by the Republican map drawer, I think does a better job of protecting communities of interest. I'm from Fairfax originally, I should say, so that's why I'm interested in Northern Virginia. If you look at the Democratic map, there's some issues such as George Mason, for example, is expanding its campus, and the Democratic map cuts in half the expanded side of the campus from the current campus. And so there's problems such as that. And in general, I was talking with a couple other people, and we think that the Republican map does a better job protecting communities of interest in Northern Virginia. So at least as it goes to Northern Virginia, I would recommend, I don't know exactly how y'all are going to combine the maps, but I would recommend using the maybe Republican maps as a starting point. And I also wanted to thank both map drawers for drawing a majority or plurality Asian district in Eastern Loudoun, because that's something I had mentioned in previous comments, and I'm glad that ended up happening to the House of Delegates. The second point I wanted to make is I wanted to quickly just talk about the whether the districts are fair from a partisan perspective. As you all know, that's required by the law to be that the districts match the partisan makeup of the state. I think if you look at the state Senate maps, they end up being around the same in terms of partisan impact. The Republican state House map, I'm a little worried about. If you do just a quick and dirty analysis based on VPAP data, it ends up sorting out to, and you just divide the toss-up districts in half to each party. It ends up sorting out to 52.5 Democrat to 47.5 Republican. But Joe Biden beat Donald Trump 54 to 44%. That doesn't quite reflect the political demographics of the state. Meanwhile, the Democratic state House map, if you do the same analysis, goes 54 Dem, 46 GOP, which is about more accurate. And so I would ask that you guys make sure, if you're using the Republican map as a starting point, that you really have them check that they fix the map to make sure it reflects the partisan makeup of the state accurately. So if you're looking for a way to merge the maps, perhaps you could use a Democratic map as a starting point and just replace the Northern Virginia districts in that map with the Republican maps, Northern Virginia districts. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. And I think we're all trying to figure out how we're going to have those maps put together, but we're going to figure it out together. So anyhow, yes,
Yeah,
Delegate
Madam Chair,
McQuinn?
just one comment. I hope as we looked at and had the presentation from the communication folks, I hope that there is an understanding about the urgency, because several times I've heard 2 or 3 days. I just think that it's very urgent that the various communities across this Commonwealth, that we are getting in touch with them and communicating with them relatively swiftly in order for us to be able to tap into all the resources that may be out there and for their input into being able to communicate their input into what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
It's
Chair.
a concern I think we all share, and I think Ms. Carlin heard that concern, and hopefully by Thursday, when we get back together, hopefully a lot of things will be live. So anyhow, thank you so much. Travel safely getting back home.